sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name's Beth, and if you're new, welcome. Today I'm going back a few years. I was actually very surprised that this heart, it's in this pillow front right here, I constructed 4 years ago, or I had a video on how to make this heart 4 years ago. I'll leave a link below. I used it in a couple of projects so far. I made a little table mat, and I have also used this heart to make some little posters. For the heart, I'm using 4 strips that are 4.5 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. The little squares in the corners are 1 inch, and then I have larger squares here that are 2.5 inches. And like I said, there's more information on that old video that I'll leave linked below. Little heart is 4.5 inches square, so to make my letters, I am going to try to shoot for a 4-inch square as well. And my red strips for my letters are 1.25 inch wide. And this white little rectangle here that I am adding is 2.5 by 3 3/4. I would really encourage you, though, rather than doing a lot of measuring, to wing it a little bit. I think it's fun to just do some improvisational piecing, and this is a fun block to sew together. As long as you get to 4.5 inches, your 4 little squares will come together nicely. I did make a few different letters, and honestly, this first L that I'm putting together here didn't make the cut. I added a little white to the end of the bottom of the L, and it does look okay, but I decided to do my block just a little bit differently. So the strips on the left, I know some people will want to know, are 1.25 by 4.5 inches long, and the white rectangle is 2.5 inches by 3 3/4, and that bottom strip is 1.25 by 2.5. I put all of these together to make my L letter for my little pillow. Now that I have my L complete, I'm going to make a sort of paper pieced V. You can see I drew my lines on the back of the paper, and I scooted that V, that red strip, over away from the edge, so I'll have at least a 1/4 inch seam on each side. And I'll just add some funny shaped white scraps here once I have all my white scraps on, I can trim the excess away. So I started with one part of a V, and here's the other part, but first I need to add a white piece in the middle. All my pieces are sewn onto that white piece of paper, and now I can trim away the excess and use the paper as my guide. Last but not least, I'm going to construct an E for my little quilt block here. I have a strip for the left side of the E that's going to be 4.5 by 1 1/4. And then since the E needs 5 strips for the shape of the letter, I had to do a different sort of math. I used 2 reds that are 1 1/4 inch and 2 whites that are 1 1/4 inch. And then to get to that magic 4.5 inches that I'm shooting for, I needed to add 1 strip that's 1.5 inches. So that bottom strip on the E will be 1.5 inches so that I can get to that 4.5 inches. I like the way this is coming out, but you're going to see very soon here that I did change my mind a couple of times. So I'm adding a white strip, a 1 1/4 inch strip between the V and the E. And once I had everything, I think, together, I decided I would rather have that white strip on the other side of the E. So I did need to rip out a little bit of my seam, but that's okay. It doesn't take very long to rip out the seam. I sewed it all together and I changed my mind. I do like that white strip on the right side a little better. And then one more change I made is first I put my 4 letters together like you see me doing right here. And then after I did that, I changed my mind and I added a white strip between the 2 rows, which I think came out a lot better. I really like the way that this came out. Here I am adding that last little 1 1/4 inch strip between my 2 rows. And once I had this ready, I was able to put a little pillow front together. I'm going to add some white borders, and maybe next time we get together, I'll be quilting and putting a pillow together with this really cute block. I thought I would add this in here. This was my first go at this pattern. This is how I put it all together the first time. It was a little bit of a learning curve, and I kind of enjoy the process of figuring things out. And these are very simple alphabet letters that I don't think you can really mess up too much. So this was a fun project to kind of figure out. Here's my finished block, and I'm going to be adding some very large white borders all around so that my pillow will measure about 16 inches by 16 inches. I'll be quilting this very soon and turning it into a pillow. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.